G'day everyone. Today we're going to look at this plant. It's called Euphorbia Schoenlandii. It comes from South Africa, up on the west coast. It's found along the upper shorelines because it likes sandy soil, well drained, and it's a unique type of plant. As you can see, it's got these fascinating spikes growing on the side of it there. That's the one thing that's sort of like drawn me to this plant. I really like about this plant is the features of it and how it looks. It looks like one of those caveman clubs with all the spikes on it. Yeah, and they don't branch off, but as you can see on the left, there's one there alongside it that has got offsets, but there's a reason why it's actually offsetted to the side. I'll tell you in a bit. But yeah, they can handle full sun, but they do like, once they're in a location, a situation, and they're happy in that area, they don't mind it as much. But once you move it, you have to acclimatise it depending on how much sun they do get. They're a fairly slow grower. I suppose it all depends on the conditions. The soil, well drained. Like I water these, I don't know, maybe once or twice a week, depending on the conditions. Like during the summertime, I try not to water these in the middle of the day. I always try to either water them first thing in the morning, just slightly, so they don't get too hot, because you can see the pots are fairly small, and with being out in the open, because they're not in the hothouse, they'll end up getting too hot, and the root system will get too hot. Then what happens, it just cooks the roots. It boils the roots because the soil and the humidity in the soil will get too hot, and it just rots everything. So I try to normally water these in the cool of the evening, and sort of like depends on how dry the soil is. If it's fairly dry, really dry, I'll give them a good water, and I won't water them for at least maybe a week or so, depending, you know, if they dry out. Yeah, so these spikes, yeah, they can get fairly long actually. These plants, I've bought all these plants about the same time. Some grew better than others, and yeah, but this one here is these plants here are all roughly around about maybe 18 years old. And I actually bought all the plants that were at the nursery. Actually, I was with my sister when we come across these, and she got one, and I bought the other 4. So I wanted to make sure that nothing happened. Like, you know, no one's perfect. You could always lose a plant just by mistakes, and yeah, I nearly did lose some plants, but I was luckily to save some of them. So yeah, so these spikes are branches, and what normally happens, I'll show you some photos of them where they actually come out with leaves up the very top, then the leaves actually die off, but these are sterile branches. Nothing happens to them. They actually leaf, and then when they're finished leafing, they die back, and the outer skin of these branches die away, and it forms a wooden stem. And the flowers, you might see right down there, that's where the flowers come from, underneath there. And these plants are unisex, male and female. You don't need more than one, but it's good to have more than one so they can cross-pollinate. They are unique in their own way. And you know, in the Euphorbia family, there's quite a variety and different species in this family. They do well in a pot like this, but I have to up pot them, maybe a bit bigger pot, because they have been in these pots for quite a number of years. And when I actually first seen this plant, I was also with my sister at this nursery. Nursery? Oh no, it was like a nursery cactus garden up at Strathmerton called Cactus Country. Or is it Cactus Country? I think it is Cactus Country. And it's huge. Some of the cactuses there are massive, like some of the cactuses would be at least 5 feet tall, the tall growing ones. And when I come across this plant in the ground, I said to myself, I have to get my hands on one of these. And the one that I actually seen would have been about twice the size of this, and the thorns would have been at least, I don't know, 3 to 4 inches long. It was huge. It was in the ground, and the conditions there was ideal for this plant. They're pretty easy to grow, but like I said, watering, you've got to be mindful about how much water you give these during the winter time, like they say. Sort of reduce the water. Try not to give them any water, because they can actually get root rot. Okay, now going over to this one. Why is this one branching? The reason why is that when it was growing, it lost the eye, the growth eye of the plant. And initially I thought to myself, okay, it's going to die and whatever, but it healed up, as you can see. The top of it, the base of it, it's all dried out. There's no eye on it for it to grow. So eventually, as it was flowering, and as you can see, this is one that's had a flower, and don't know whether, because what happens is when it does flower and gets pollinated, it dies back, but actually the seed pod actually tends to come out of it. And where others, I think with the Medusa, similar. As the seed pod gets bigger, the flower itself that surrounds that seed pod ends up falling away, and the seed pod tends to come up. And as you can see, this has got leaves on it, so it's growing. But that is where you get your branches, your flowers. As you can see, there's the spike there. This one, the spikes aren't so pronounces like this one here, you know, because it's putting a lot more growth into the plant itself and the spikes, where this one's mainly trying to produce more branches. And it has. This top branch up here is, as you can see, it's fairly large, so it's the first one that actually started to come out and sort of start to form that shape, where there's another one down below here. And these ones too will end up like that, but it's going to take quite a long time. Quite a long time. So I'm pretty rapt about this. You know, you can imagine, you know, in a fair few more years what this is going to look like. You know, it's going to look like this, but with multiple branches. And this one here, this one's got a bit of a story to it. What happened to this one? This one, if you can notice, it's virtually the same all the way from the base upwards. The reason why is because when this plant was growing, yes, I overwatered it and it got root rot and it started to go up the plant. So I was fairly quick and I cut the root section off, the rotted part, and I let it heal up and I put it in the ground, in the soil. Look, I was pretty new to growing these plants and I wasn't too familiar how to use the internet back in those days. But yeah, I planted it and it grew. And she's taken off, but not as not like how this one's. It looks like a clump, like a club, I should say. Where this one's very, how can you say, the same size all the way up. But yeah, you know, she's growing. She's got that bit of a twist to it, as you can see by the spiral, where that one's got that twist and these ones here are sort of like fairly, how can you say, straight up. Not like this one. This is sort of growing like in a corkscrew, and the spines are doing well. The conditions is as you can see, it's got a little bit of sunburn on them, where these ones have. With the weather here, right here in Melbourne at the moment, we've been getting some really scorcher days, like up to the... Something happened to the camera there. Yeah, so the temperatures have been going up to about the 40 Celsius, between say 30 and 40. So it's been pretty hot. So I've been moving these around to so they're not getting sunburnt, but they can handle the coldness. You know, like I said, these are outdoors. They do get midday sun, and then after that they're sort of like in the shade. They're easy to propagate from seed, but I would say if you do get seeds off these plants that they are fresh, you know, like a month old, even straight off the plant, I would plant the seeds straight away in a perlite and peat mixture, just to propagate them, to get them up and put them under lights and give it a little bit of warmth, and they'll sprout up. And then once they sprout out, you can sort of transplant them into individual pots, so you don't have to mess around with them later on, and they can stay in those pots. And I've grown quite a fair few from seeds, and a little bit finicky. And I'll show you some of the juveniles that I've got, some of the plants that are about 4 years old. And you can see the difference in how they've grown. Some have done better than others. So yeah, let's bring up the juvenile plants of Schoenlandii. Okay, we're back. We've got all my my juvenile Schoenlandii up on top of the table here. As you can see, there's quite a fair few. There's, I don't know how many, roughly around about 30, I think. Yeah, close to 30, say around about 28 plants here in the juveniles. I've got one in the hothouse, I'll show you a bit later. That is a bit unique. We'll have a look at that one a bit later. But yeah, these are all were grown at the same time. As you can see, some have done better than others, like these ones here that are in a larger pot. I think it's time to actually upgrade these ones from the 2-inch pot to maybe a 4-inch pot. Give them a bit more room to grow. The conditions, actually, these were in the hothouse, and they, I don't know, for some unknown reason, they weren't doing that well in there. Maybe because of they weren't getting enough sunlight. And I've noticed, being outside, they have picked up. The thorns are actually more prominent. As you can see down below, they're really scrawny, but as the plant's getting bigger, the thorns are actually starting to come into shape and more thicker, and really got that spiky scenario happening. Yes, as you can see, I've got a calico plant growing amongst it, and that's because it was in the hothouse and they fell. And as you can see, the babies, the juvenile seedlings of them are just there, and what happens, they just fall into the plant and come up. And this one over here has got a Discoria elephanti growing in the pot, and I definitely have to transplant that out of the pot there. These are all roughly around about 3 years old. So, you know, 3 years, it's a fairly long time. But I suppose with the right conditions, you know, they'll grow fairly quick. Some of the ones you actually see on the internet and whatever are really lush, so they're in a really good environment and lush and green, so they're getting everything that they need. And these ones are sort of like, I don't know, been neglected, and sort of like grown fairly with not as much care, but still I try to look after these plants. These aren't the only plants that I've got. As you can see around me, I've got plants everywhere. Wherever you look around my backyard, it's I've got plants in pots here, there and everywhere. It's a bit of a mumbo jumbo scenario with my cacti. It'd be great to have a hothouse so I can actually plant these all in there, and or even leave them in pots. But my hothouse isn't that big, and they all don't fit. That's why a lot of them are outdoors. And the only ones that are indoors are the ones that can't really cope with the cold weathers out here. But yeah, as you can see, this one here has got a calico or mother of thousands growing in there, and a cactus growing in with it. So I'm not really fussed. You know, they grow, they grow. They don't. Whatever falls into that pot, I don't really worry about it. Like this one here has got some juvenile calancos growing. But yeah, these are 3 years old. Have got a couple that have something happening up at the very top, but who knows, maybe the eye. There was a case of spider mite and it's affected it. The reason that's why I've brought these out is because I have had a case of spider mite in the hothouse, and it was affecting some of my euphorbias and some of my other plants. So I brought them out here so they can actually get over it. I will leave these outdoors now, but I'll put them in an area that they won't get as much rain. But as long as it's fairly, the soil's porous, and they've got good drainage and they don't get the frost, that's what I'm worried about. But we don't get many days here in Victoria with frost, and where they're situated, the warmth off the concrete as it heats up during the day, it sort of like prevents that from happening. They're, like I said, they're pretty easy to propagate, and also too you can propagate like with this one here as a cutting, but yeah, they're a bit finicky. So if you can get some seeds, because I haven't seen many people with this plant. Oh, don't get me wrong, I suppose there are people who are Euphorbia collectors and grow this plant, have got this plant. But yes, these are also my favourites because of the thorns on it. And it's just unique. So, Euphorbia Schoenlandii from South Africa. Okay, we're in the hothouse and we're looking at one of my unique Schoenlandii here that has branched out from young, from growing when it was young, and as you can see, it's a nice lush green, which is, she's doing really well. I nearly missed out on showing this plant. And she's growing really good. The thorns are really well, formed well. And she's in a good position, so I'm not going to move her where she is. Hopefully we don't get another case of spider mites in the hothouse. So yes, this is it's very unique to come across one that has got branches. Like I said, normally they are solitary, they don't branch out. Only with age they might branch out. And as you'd seen with mine, one of the main growth eye on it was damaged, so she was forced to branch out to grow even more so. But yes, this one's one of the prides, so it'd be great to see her growing and say another 5 or 6 years and see how she is. So yes, this one's also 3 years old, as same age as those other ones, but this one had a bit of a relapse in growth, and then all of a sudden she come good. Okay, I'll splice this video in between because I forgot all about this plant. I thought I'll show you to what they actually could do when they, like, it's deformed. You know, it's got 2 heads. Talk about 2 heads, eh? All right, catches. Bye. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video about this plant. If you've got any comments about this plant, you know, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'm hoping to get some seeds off these and hopefully share them around so other people can enjoy this plant. And if anyone's sort of like interested with the seeds, just pop me a line and we'll talk about it, because at the moment they're not seeding. I've got to wait. I'm not really sure that, you know, their growing seasons normally during the I think it's autumn they tend to grow and start to leaf. And see, some of these, my other euphorbias are flowering at the moment. Maybe these flower at just a different time, because I've noticed that these don't flower at the same time as my other euphorbias. But yeah, so if, maybe down the track I might be able to share some of the seeds, because you know, you can only grow so many, and I've got plenty. I've got plenty. I got plenty. Even Euphorbia obesis seeds. I'm going to be getting my hands on quite a few if anyone's interested in some of them. So yeah, okay. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you to all my few new subscribers that have joined me. I hope you enjoy what you see, and look, you know, I might be the greatest narrator out there, but I try to do my best, and I'm sorry about if I don't pronounce some of the names, because it's a bit it's a bit difficult for me to pronounce some of it, as you know yourself. You know, there's some words there that are tongue twisters. So like always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.